toiling upwards in the night. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Megha Athotra, your master of ceremony for this evening, and it is my immense pleasure to welcome you all to the third Governance Now PSU Awards Ceremony 2015. Today's event is dichotomized into two. The first one is the inaugural session and the panel discussion on unlocking the potential of PSUs in India and the award ceremony. As we all know that the PSU Award 2015 is being organized by Governance Now, which is a part of Sri Adhikari Brothers Group, or popularly understood as the Sub TV Group, and is a multimedia initiative for participatory reporting and analysis related to governance of all the institutions and processes that are vital to public life in India. The editorial team of Governance Now comprises senior journalists, citizen journalists, guest writers from diverse disciplines and professional backgrounds, with each one of the team members being passionate about accountability and transparency in the national public life. The PSU Awards is the part of magazine's initiative to recognize the role of PSUs in the growth of Indian economy and has been anchored by M76 Analytics. Before we move on to the formal session, I have a request to make to you all. Kindly switch off your cell phones as a mark of respect to the fellow participants and distinguished speakers. Thank you. May I now request Ms. Surbhi Shukla to please escort esteemed guests for our inaugural session to the stage. Shri Anil Swarup, Secretary, Ministry of Coal, Government of India, and our chief guest for the inaugural session. Sir, may I request you to please come on the stage. Shri S.N. Tripathi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises, Government of India, and our special guest for today's. Shri Ashish Kumar Chauhan, Managing Director and CEO, Bombay Stock Exchange. Our other distinguished guest for this inaugural session. Sir, please come on the stage. Shri Vikas Agrawal, Executive Director, Ernst & Young, and our moderator for this panel discussion on unlocking the potential of PSUs for India's economy and social development. May I now request Shri Kailash Nath Adhikari, Director, Governance Now, to please come on stage and welcome the distinguished guests by presenting them with bouquet. Thank you, Shri Adhikari, and I also request you to please join us on the dais for the welcoming address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome you all to the third edition of Governance Now PSU Awards and Conference 2015. Thank you one and all for making your presence felt at this august gathering. It is interesting to note that the Honorable Finance Minister of India, Shri Arun Jaitley, has taken into account a record 362 crore dividend from PSUs in the current financial year, which is up 27% from the last year and double the amount almost a decade ago. Besides, the disinvestment process too has helped the country garner roughly 12,700 crores in the financial year 15-16. not to talk about the contribution in terms of the Make in India and the Design in India campaign to which PSUs have contributed. Government has raised close to 12,700 crores from stake sale in PSUs in this fiscal, so far as lined up state-run firms in sectors such as defense, oil and power for disinvestment to garner more capital in this coming financial year. The budget has set an ambitious target to raise 69,500 crore to disinvestment. The government has raised close to 24,000 crore in 14-16, 15,819 crore in 13-14, and 23,956 crore in 12-13. All these highlights the important role that PSUs have been playing in the economic growth of the country. But there are other aspects too. The recent report of Governance Now PSU Special and Top 100 ranking of the public sector enterprises covers these all. However, I would like to highlight some of the few points. Just 5 companies, Indian Oil Corporation, Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, Coal India, Bharat Petroleum, and National Mineral Development Corporation can provide 90% of the target if they meet the net profit estimates of the analyst, and they pay the same dividend rate as in 2014-15. Together, ladies and gentlemen, they have had a free cash flow of $13 billion in the previous financial year. During the course of our research, in order to gain a macro view of all the parameters of PSU, we evaluated the percentage of total PSUs performing better than the industry across all the parameters. The results were very varied as the nature of the PSU itself across different parameters, ranging from that 25% of PSUs are outperforming their peers on 5-year income and CAGR model, to an interesting fact that 53% of PSUs were performing better than their peers on 1-year profitability criteria. However, on the whole, the PSUs have lagged behind their peers in the industry in 4 out of the 5 important parameters. However, this is where the Indian public sector companies have a stunner to show. Unlike what one would expect as a natural corollary to the parameter-wise comparison of PSUs versus the industry performance, where one would assume that the overall picture of the PSUs to be glim, but if we take note of the fact that whenever it comes to industry peers and the parameter is overall financial performance, 51% of the PSUs have surpassed their peers on this particular parameter. We have also explored this year a different parameter, that is non-financial indicators, where we have included Green Initiative, CSR Initiative, HR Initiative, ICT Initiative, Technology, Research and Innovation. While you will get the scores and the detailed analysis in the magazine, the current issue of Governance Now, the PSU Special, the PSUs have helped meet the toilet goal target and contributed in a big way by planting a lot of trees. But there is still, which is a lot to be done. In fact, there is a need to take the first strategic step, that is of comprehensive planning and reporting of all these in their annual reports. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I conclude my welcome note, and once again thank you all for making your presence felt at this August gathering and setting the tone for the upcoming inaugural session and panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shri Adhikari. It is indeed a moment of pride for all of us as we celebrate the success of PSUs and their contribution for nation building. I'm sure everybody is looking forward to the invigorating discussion, and there's a lot of questions that you want to ask. However, before we move on to this session, I once again request you all to please switch off your cell phones. And this entire event is live webcast, so you can feel free to tweet. You can use our hashtag PSU Awards 2015 and our handle @GovernanceNow. You can update your status at Facebook as well. To take forward the panel discussion, I now hand over the baton to Shri Vikas Agrawal. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome to panelists on the dais. Before we start, I had a guidance from Mr. Swaroop that we should involve the audience more and more, and it should be something interesting. So let me start with very, very mundane participation from audience. Can all of us who were born in 40s, sorry, let's not talk about 40s, born in 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, raise our hands, please. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. So while I can see many more. Okay. So not that I'm trying to sell you an insurance policy, though I'm tempted, because probably I can sell a health plan or a term plan to a lot of us. But the idea was people who have been born into 60s, 70s, 80s. PSUs probably were a part of our life. So anything which we were doing in walk of life, ranging from our job aspiration to buying a textile, to going and visiting a 5-star hotel, PSUs were playing a monumental role into our lives over there. And somewhere in mid-90s onwards, we realized that probably there's a new thing in the game because the economy opened up. We had private sector playing a much more larger role than earlier, and that larger continued to become larger and larger and larger. If you look at the history of PSUs, starting from when we said PSUs were required in post-independence era, more to create a self-reliant economy, more to create huge infrastructure that we wanted as a country, to the stage when we started nationalizing enterprises which were doing well or otherwise, moving on to stage when we had the licensing regime, to the stage when we started opening up our economy. So there have been various chapters in our economic growth, and PSUs have been playing different kind of roles in each of these chapters. So we have seen an era where PSUs were the talk of the town. We have seen an era wherein we used to love to talk negative about PSUs, saying there's no efficiency, no optimization. Had I been working with the private sector, or had I taken service from the private sector, things would have been different. And again came in an era when today, when you go to the markets, you see PSU shares are doing very, very well. So PSUs have seen a lot of ups and downs. But the basic question which comes to my mind when I start about PSUs, which essentially is a PSC, a public sector enterprise, is it actually a social enterprise which carries a business aspiration? Or is it a business enterprise which carries a social burden? Now, one may think of it either way, but I think it's a very relevant question. Now, let me add one more question to it. The question is, when we expect our PSUs or PSCs to perform optimally, to compete with the private sector, then the tag of enabling socio-economic development, is that a privilege or is that a burden? With that, I would invite views from Mr. Sarup on that. That is that tag a burden or a privilege for us? And what is actually a PSC and what it should be? A social enterprise or a business enterprise?
Thank you very much for those kind words. In my understanding, I think PSUs have to play a very, very unique role. For them, profit is not the end of the world. Efficiency is. And it is a question of how efficiency is then used to generate profits. And profitability per se, though not being an objective, is an objective, also fulfilling a particular social objective of the government of the country. I've had the privilege of interacting with some of the PSUs in the coal sector. And what I have seen of the coal sector in the past year or so has been absolutely phenomenal. And I would believe that most of you that are sitting here, coming from public sector, the country is proud of you. Because but for your existence here, the ups and downs that are seen in the private sector would have created a bit of a chaos here. So I think the public sector has a prominent role to play even today. It's not that post-90s, the role, though may have changed a bit, has been totally eliminated. I keep going back to the coal sector because the stability that Coal India has provided to the supply of coal in the country has led to a stability in the power sector and other sectors as well. I'm so glad that I see someone from Coal India also sitting here. Mr. Mishra is sitting here, he's the chairman of Western Coalfield Limited. What remarkable work is being done in Western Coalfield Limited. I don't think any private sector can boast of what he's already doing there, both in terms of generating value. I would not talk in terms of generating profits, generating value, as also in terms of the actual CSR that is happening. It is not windows dressing in terms of CSR. You have to see to believe what is happening there. I'm sure in other segments also, similar sort of activity must be, they would be undertaking such activities. What I would suggest in a forum like this, though of course you will receive your awards and you will go away, I think there needs to be a lot of experience sharing in terms of what good activities are happening in the public sector. There is a lot of misconception about public sector. There could be some public sectors where good work is not being done, and probably it could be done more efficiently. But there's a lot of good work that I am personally aware of, a lot of good work being done. And we can learn from each other. So a forum like this, a magazine like this, I've been an avid reader of Governance Now, could take up such issues and probably educate the masses and educate each other as to what good work is done. The bottom line is that public sector will continue to play a very, very prominent role, both in terms of generating value, also in terms of creating social value, also in terms of distributing social value. All this is essential, and I think public sector, as I said, will continue to play a very, very prominent role in the decades to follow.
If public sector is going to continue to play a vital role, is that role going to change as we change ourselves as an economy, as we open up more and more, as we go into liberalized era? And one more factor, let me add one more factor over there. So as we see the Modi era, wherein there's a change in government, there's a change in thought process, there's change in policies, are we going to see some more changes happening in that direction?
You know, what the public sector lends is, you know, if there are monopolies, there will be inefficiencies. So public sector provides the necessary balance. If public sector monopoly is bad, the private sector monopoly will be even worse. So you have to have both coexisting in terms of providing competition to each other. And this will lead to efficiencies in both the sectors. As we have seen in a number, you look at how things have happened in the telecom sector. Efficiencies have come about. Look in terms of banking sector, where efficiencies in the public sector banks have improved dramatically once the economy or once the sector was opened up to others. And I think State Bank continues to perform so very well even now. I can name other banks as well. So it's a question of avoiding monopoly of either public or private. To my mind, I think monopoly of either sectors is very bad. So we have to have that balance.
Sure. Let me invite views from Mr. Chauhan on this.
No, I think I agree with Mr. Swaroop that ultimately the issue is that for me, in some sense, I also worked in a public sector before I went into private sector. I started my career as a public sector person. And for me, those days, as you said, 50s, 60s, 70s, that was the aspiration and the balance and the base that has been created of professionalism. That would not have been there. See, post-91, the liberalization happened, and we had a ready-made pool of managers and CEOs. Most of us came from a public sector in a sense. You know, that base had been created over 40, 50 years. The other part is that it has created that base of also industrialization, which would never have happened if PSUs were not there. So effectively, PSUs have done a great job, and post-liberalization, the framework has changed a little.
Undoubtedly, they've done a great job. I don't think any of us doubts that. And I too started my career from a PSU. So when I was in college, we used to aspire that you have to join either CMC or Indian Oil or HPCL if you want to have a comfortable life or a good life. So I've started my career from there. So I don't think any of us doubts that.
Correct.
But the point is, in the changing economy, what role PSU will continue to play? Should government be any more in the business of business? Or should government gradually ease itself out of that?
Internationally, many governments, including the most capitalistic governments, have PSUs. There is no black and white in the world, you know, except in what I call people's minds. There are shades of grays, and what type of PSUs have to be there? My framework is very simple, that wherever technologies are stable, the processes matter. Those businesses are more amenable to process-oriented work like what PSUs are used to doing. When the technology is changing very, very fast, for that period of technology changing fast, that's where the PSUs are not able to keep pace with the rest of the rest of the competition, and that's where if you have great leaders, even in PSUs, they are able to keep pace with. For me, I recall SAIL. You know, in 90s, SAIL share price used to be 5 rupees and 480 and even lower, and then it took off because of the leadership that came in. There are many such examples that basically have proved beyond doubt that PSUs can actually compete, even in the most fast-changing industry and also most competing industries. And they are adding a different value, as Mr. Swaroop said. In addition to being profitable, they also have additional role to play and getting that balance so that the private sector monopolies also don't end up basically squeezing the economy hard. And those are, I think, overall, the PSUs have some advantages with them, that is public trust. I think today you go out into the market, when an issue comes of a PSU for debt, today it gets subscribed in 30 minutes flat. And oversubscribed by 10 times, 20 times. Any debt coming from any PSU, sir, you will be delighted to know that within 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 5,000 crores, 10,000 crores, 20,000 crores get subscribed. And that is because PSUs have actually created names for themselves. They are household names, they are brands to reckon with, and people trust them. And that, for me, is the greatest achievement of PSUs. And going forward, if you are able to give that autonomy, what I have been told is somewhere on the line, given the experience of Gujarat when Mr. Modi was there as Chief Minister, the PSUs actually ended up becoming very, very prominent of Gujarat PSUs. And my understanding is that he will also probably bring the same framework here, that PSUs, instead of being what I call liabilities, they are going to become assets in his scheme of things. And that is where PSU are going to actually play much more prominent role than they have played over the last 15, 20 years. That is what I would like to believe, that that is his experience. And he firmly believes that the PSUs have a great role to play in the society.
Should we have some kind of a policy or some kind of, guidelines, that which are the sectors in which PSUs have a role to play, a definite role to play, versus Air India running on government money and not only losing revenue but also losing credibility? What do you think, Mr. Tripathi, on that?
I represent MSME sector, and asking Air India question doesn't appear to be right. But yes, and it's not either or. I believe, I'm one of those who believe that if there is enough water in the river, all the boats will ply. So PSUs and private sector both will run if there is ecosystem which is friendly, which is business friendly. And if you see pre-90 and post-91 PSUs, there is enough improvement in PSUs also. I can give one example of not Air India, maybe a wrong one because I do not have much knowledge about it. But I can certainly say that National and Small Industries Corporation, NSIC, which is there with our ministry, so it was running in loss till 7 years back. Today, and its overall business was only less than 300 crore, supplying raw material to MSMEs. Last year, they reported a business of 21,000 crores, and they are giving us a profit of around 125 crores. Same CPSUs, same government managed. So it is not that it's black and white. There is a lot of shade of gray here, because purpose of public sector is still there. There will be a dependent sector which requires hand-holding. I think NSIC is one such example. 21,000 crores of raw material, they are buying bulk from major manufacturers. They are supplying in a small quantity to the small entrepreneurs. So you may call it a social enterprise, but it does serve more than about 50,000 MSMEs are surviving because of one PSU. I'm not saying if NSIC is closed, they will not survive. But my point is that with one small PSU, with a total investment of 300 crore, we are making life good for 50,000 MSMEs. Same thing is true for many other intervention of the government. And I am also one of those who believe that with calibrated freedom and good ecosystem, PSUs and private sector, both are fishermen in the same market. So they do require equality of opportunity. May not be quality of outcome, as we try to say that. With 300 crore, one company is giving 300 crore of profit. With 3,000 crore of investment, one company is not giving that much of profit. As sir has said, profit was not the only objective. Employment generation was the need of the hour. Building India was the need of the hour. We have suffered East India Company syndrome, so people were a little averse to going for private sector when CPSUs were created. They were the commanding heights of the economy. So we can't really liberate ourselves from history so soon and then blame all the ills on CPSUs. When they were given equal opportunity, they are performing and they are signing. Maybe certain areas they need not be, like bread making and maybe many more things. But in certain areas there is a need for such enterprise, and people have trust in them and they are performing. They are very capable. In fact, the very fact that Sri Adhikari is trying to award Adhikaris of PSU is a good example.
Thank you, sir. Thank you on that. I have one more question here. When we say giving more flexibility and more empowerment, what's the corporate governance yardstick that we today apply to PSUs? Because when we talk about private enterprises, we talk a lot about corporate governance, how they're managing their affairs, how transparent, how visible they are to the stakeholders. So how does it apply to PSUs? Is there something which we think need to change over there to bring in larger confidence of general public into PSUs and also the investors into PSUs?
Again, I'll take the example of Coal India, how we interface and interact with Coal India. My understanding of such a situation is that both the government and the PSU have a role to perform, and it's not an overlapping role. If we clearly outline and identify respective roles, both will stand to benefit. I'll give you a concrete example. The arrangement that we have come with Coal India is that you do the digging part, I will manage the environment for you. Because it is convenient for me as Secretary to Government to interface with Chief Secretaries of State Governments, of Secretaries of other ministries, to solve the problem of Coal India. So I'm helping them in the job what they have to do. I'm not interfering in the digging part. So they are left with time to do their job, and I do the job which I can help them. So I'm value adding to what they are doing. The results have been, if I use the word, devastating. Look at what has happened to Coal India. In the year 2014-15, the incremental production of 32 million tons was more than the cumulative incremental production of previous 4 years. And in 15-16, we are growing at the rate of 8.9% over previous year, unprecedented in the history of Coal India. Today we have a situation where the power entities are sitting comfortably on 20 days inventory, as against 4 or 5 days panic calls around this time last year. Imports have started coming down. This happened because there was a clear role definition in terms of who has to do what. The problem arises when we start defining others' roles. They define their role, we define our role. We sit across a table and decide, you do this, I'll do this. It is not a question of monitoring somebody. It is a question of partnership. It is a question of sitting around and understanding what are the limitations of respective role performers. And once you do that, I have absolutely no doubt that both will stand to benefit. The country will stand to benefit. It is when we start treading on each other's feet, that's where the problem is. Fortunately, in the coal ministry, we've avoided that, and both are having a great time.
Sir, I agree, but how do we draw a line between a facilitation versus intervention versus interference? Because the government or the parent ministry may think it's facilitating, it's acting in the best interest of the partnership. But what do the head honchos of the PSUs got to say on that? So what's their feeling? Is it merely a facilitation, or they feel it's an intervention which is going to the extent of interference? Yeah, it would be good to hear one of the people around here.
I can go around. Somebody from the PSU might like to respond to this question. Where should we draw the line in terms of intervention, in terms of facilitation? Will somebody like to talk about it?
I think what Honorable Coal Secretary has just mentioned. I mean, we have. I am from Western Coalfields Limited. I am CMD of Western Coalfields Limited, Rajiv Mishra. What has been introduced by Mr. Anil Swarup after taking over as Coal Secretary is that we have become transparent. We are now not dependent on each other. As he rightly said, that any issue related to Government of India at Delhi or even at state level is being handled by the Ministry of Coal. We know that these points are to be raised before him or before the team, and he'll take care. We are going through the production process or the development process. The point is, when the roles are clear, there is no question of having a line drawn, because we know each other, we know the roles divided. So it's no question of any line, and we are comfortable with this, and we are progressing like anything. One more thing I would like to tell here is that normally what has happened with this new Coal Secretary, we are doing our business by, we are doing our management by efforts. We are not doing management by results. We don't pressurize on day-to-day basis that you have not performed today, the production is less, or you are not doing well. We don't monitor results. We monitor efforts, and those all efforts are transparent on website, on portals, and we follow that and we monitor that. That is the new thing which has happened. And I feel this is a new thing for any of the public sector undertaking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any contrary view in the audience?
Sir, I'm A.K. Jain, Managing Director, REIL. Actually, they say one clear line which I see between the government role and the PSU role. That's there's a column called support from government. So whosoever CPSC is looking for a clear support, it could be synergy, it could be upgradation, it could be anything, even equity addition for anything. So there's a clear role defined in the MOU which we signed with the government, that what the CPSC is supposed to do and what government is supposed to do. And then when the parameters are monitored, when evaluation is done, the due diligence is done too. So this is where I see there's a clear demarcation as well, a part of whatever guidance we receive from the administrative ministry or secretary.
Thank you, sir. While we understand MOUs are there between the parent ministry and the PSUs, but are those MOUs being honored in letter or in spirit? So sitting at a bus where you see private sector enterprise also, what do you think in terms of either facilitation, intervention? How does private sector perceive that?
See, I mean, I have worked for long in private sector, and now I am kind of in the middle as a regulator also. And what I see is that PSUs lack in ability to communicate. Somehow we take work as routine. I mean, your biggest achievements you don't even talk about. I mean, when you go out and do things, you go home and sleep the same way. A private sector guy will go out, tom-tom, be on television, spend money on telling what we have done. For me, PSUs have singularly, probably jointly decided over last 20, 30, 40 years to not talk about their achievements only. And for me, that has been the single issue that has actually, I mean, imagine Indigo takes out 3,000 crore rupees of equity, and that is on all newspapers, all channels. And a PFC would collect 10,000 crores, which is oversubscribed by probably 20, 30 times in debt, not even equity. And probably it is in some corner of some newspaper, provided they don't have other material to put. So for me, this is where I see that somewhere communications is an issue. Second thing is the incentives and disincentives for the management and for the people working. Clearly, the private sector is able to incentivize the managers much better than the public sector because of various reasons. And in some sense, all of us who have worked or who work in public sector have taken it for granted. But if we can create a framework which is win-win, it can certainly take the performance to different levels. Third thing is the MIS. The way the private sector is able to measure the MIS on daily, weekly, monthly plan versus actual, as I think rightly said, we measure PSUs even internally and from the government side on efforts and not on results, and on processes and not on actually the results. Because if you have followed the process, if results are bad, you are not going to be sort of investigated by CAG or vigilance or CVC or whatever. So everyone in PSUs have become more interested in following process and less in results. And somewhere we need to find a right balance. I mean, I think we are treating government and PSUs in the same way. I think PSUs as businesses need to be treated differently in variety of ways. And somewhere I think the sweet spot will have to be found. But today, I mean, I have no doubt, as you said about Coal India, said about NSIC, many PSUs are giving a big run for money for private sector. And that is going to happen if there is more trust, more authority, more autonomy, and so on and so forth. But on top of that, if you are also able to create these factors of communication and also get the incentives right and disincentives also, because we have not been able to even bring in disincentives for our workmen and other things, you know, of variety of reasons. And if you are able to get that, I think PSUs may be able to surpass some of the most, what I call, so-called well-run private sectors. Other thing which people observe and tell me is that because the way people are able to manipulate or people are able to use the PSUs in various ways, that this private sector looks good only because you are able to actually bring down PSUs, you know. So somewhere the management is not in problem, the management capability is not in problem, even the workman capability is not in problem, but somehow we kind of put them into loops. And now what I've been told is, in 15 years or probably at least 10 years, BSNL has been lost. People thought it's a lost cause, and I've been told now this year it might make profits. You require good leadership, committed leadership, and also autonomy for. I mean, BSNL getting into profits is a huge news for India for me.
Sure. I agree on both the aspects, the communication aspect, because I do recall when I was in school, there used to be huge advertisement campaign from Tisco, and there used to be a matching advertisement campaign from Steel Authority of India Limited. So it was difficult to see which was the leader, which was the trailer, but I as a kid used to feel probably both are equally big, equally important for us as a country. So I would agree on that. In terms of PSUs being trailblazers, I would again agree. When I started my career with CMC, so when I joined the company, it was a PSU. So before I joined in late 80s, what I used to understand, the HR systems of CMC used to be studied by companies overseas to come and emulate, okay, what kind of systems they have in place. One thing which I clearly recall, which has not happened to me in any of my jobs, in private sector, wherever I go and start my employment, first day I'm supposed to submit my certificates, my degrees and everything. CMC, I was there for 12 years. 12 years, they never asked me for my degree.
No, let me interrupt you here. Actually, let us understand the context in which the public sector managers work. They have to take care of 5 C's. CIC, CVC, CBI, CAG, and courts. Anyone can question them for anything. And despite that, they are doing what they are doing is phenomenal. And when we talk of laws, it reminds me of a phrase that I coined a few months ago, that when British left this country, they took with them justice. They left behind laws, in-laws, and outlaws. Now the point is that the moment you infringe anything, or there is a question of infringement, you then become scared of those 5 C's. It is in that environment that people have to. I can share with you a personal experience. I was sitting with a top-notch private sector industrialist, a big man, who became chairman Air India, and then he quit chairman Air India. And he was left and right abusing public sector bureaucracy. Bureaucracy is abused by everybody. So he was doing that. Then I told him, why did you leave Air India? He said, it's impossible to work there. I said, you have an option to go out. I have to sit bloody there and perform. And the guys who are sitting there are performing. So I think all credit to the managers sitting here. They are doing a marvelous job given the limitations within which they are working. What really needs to be done, now let me come to the flip side of it. What really needs to be done is, I think he used a very good phrase. If they are given appropriate type of leadership, which gives them the freedom to perform to the levels they can, number one. Number two, that leadership provides them desired protection. Because I have seen it in Coal India, that you give them a bit of a protection, you incentivize them. Mind you, you can actually incentivize in public sector. We've not been incentivizing, it's our fault. I don't think we can't incentivize. We can, we should. 2-3 things you do and you can transform any public sector. Obviously, I totally agree with you that we have to decide whether the public sector should continue to produce television, booths and whatnot. I mean, that is a different issue altogether. But once you come to basic infrastructure and the elements that constitute that infrastructure, I think public sector has played a good role, a prominent role, and continue to play that role.
So let me take a leaf out of that. You talked about the senior leadership. So senior leadership in a PSU is definitely under scanner, under a microscopic scanner, if I may say, both in media, within the government and everywhere. And probably they have been providing a very, very able leadership for PSUs to progress ahead. But is the rank and file falling in place with them? Or is there some kind of complacency setting in over there that, okay, it's supposed to be slightly, if I may use a secure job or job security, whether I perform or not?
No, again, I'd like to come in here. See, in India, unlike elsewhere in the world, Ayodhya has to run by Lord Ram, not by Khadaun. So you have to decide who's going to head that organization. Let's understand that very clearly. Whether politically or administratively, the top man has to be top class. It is there if we put him there. Look at, again, I keep giving the example of Coal India. Single individual chairman Coal India has transformed Coal India. Same Coal India, same people. There is a spring in the step. You go to Coal India headquarters, you will find everyone believes that they can do the same people they can. So what we have to do in government to ensure, and that's precisely what I did while Chairman Coal India selection was going on. Fought tooth and nail to get a guy who can perform. That's what the government needs to do. Then leave him. हम लोग normally क्या करते हैं? पहले एक गधा बांध दीजिए, फिर रोज उसको मॉनिटर कीजिए. अरे भाई, कायदे का आदमी को भेज दिए, मॉनिटरिंग खत्म, अपने आप करेगा. उसको कोई तकलीफ होगी आगे हमसे पूछेगा. हम पहले तो गधा बांध देंगे, फिर रोज जब वो घुचू करेगा, फिर जाके कहेंगे क्यों भाई क्यों कर रहे हो. So to me, the job of the government is to get the right man at the top, and then leave him. Don't keep provoking, poking. Why should you do that? He's at peace, you are at peace. I have all the time in the world to attend these press conferences, your conference here, make a speech here, meaningless. If I had a Gadha sitting there, I would be fighting with him or you'd be fighting with me. So leave him to that. मेरे पास कितना time है, देखिए आपके साथ आके कब कर रहे हैं यहाँ पर.
Let me turn discussion from the business and the corporate governance to the social aspect of PSUs. And I'll first invite comments from Tripathi Saab. Because when I talk about social aspect, let's take a semi-social aspect first. So lots of MSMEs, lakhs and crores of MSMEs spread all over the country. So is there some kind of guiding policy within PSUs that PSUs, because I understand some countries like Germany have those policies, that the state-owned corporations, the corporations when the state has a stake, have to necessarily source, fund stuff from things, articles, maybe down the line, some ancillary things from MSMEs. Not only they have to buy, they have to promote them in terms of imparting them skills and knowledge, in terms of helping them in gaining new skill sets, in understanding new technology, also bring them in the forefront, so that not only that PSU is buying from them, the world knows here is a MSME doing so and so kind of thing, and the world can actually go and buy from him. So do we have something like that within our policies, the guidance for PSUs?
In fact, there is very established policy on public procurement, but it's not a social responsibility. Public procurement policy, which has become effective from 1st April 2015 this year, it mandates that all PSUs will procure their 20% requirement from MSEs, and out of that 4% from SC/ST owned enterprises. But this is not a CSR activity, this is their core activity, they must buy from them. And it is not must because at the cost of quality or a cost. They are prepared to compete and they are prepared to supply. I'm happy to share with you that last year, sir, 54 PSUs achieved their 20% target of procuring this from PSUs. And total procurement last year, 2013-14 and 14-15, was in the order of 14,000 crore worth of articles purchased from MSEs. Now we are thinking that this total procurement size from CPSUs alone is in the order of 80,000 crores. If this much is purchased from MSEs, more than 1 lakh enterprise can become viable, can become your secure source of supplies. 1. 2, there that you are associating MSEs is not a part of, with what we call it philanthropic activity. The times have changed. Earlier, if you want to manufacture a nail, you needed a steel iron ore mile because your raw material need to be tied up. Today, those days are gone. You don't need to own an iron ore mine like earlier GM used to do that thing, that you need to have raw material monopoly, then you can only have a finished product monopoly. Times have changed, people are outsourcing. Apple is a good example how they are controlling 70% of the market without a single set being manufactured in their company. In fact, Apple executive says that all my product can be put on a table. Total product manufactured by Apple can be put on a dining table. Maybe still there will be a lot of space left for having a pizza for 6 persons. But they are ruling the market. Not that you do all your manufacturing within yourself. In PSUs also things have come to that level. Associate, crowdsource, outsource, and maybe perhaps go for a reliable source of supplies. Use MSEs in that area. It will happen with PSEs also. And PSEs, sir, I support the idea of, sir, that if we keep a safe distance, he has put it very bluntly that if you appoint a gadha and ask him to run like a ghoda, you keep on monitoring, people will forget the difference who is what. People will start that the difference between monitor and the person who is managing might blur. I also believe that given if there is rule clarity and role clarity, PSUs can do much better. And so they are doing wonderful in many areas. But I'm happy that you are appreciating my batchmate who is also Chairman Coal India. So I'm doubly delighted being here.
So one more point, sir. See, I would like also to take this opportunity to compliment Adhikari brothers. Because, in government or in PSUs, we are only criticizing each other. Maybe that's what is in the fashion, keep criticizing each other. and we don't recognize or learn. So I think this is a tremendous thing done by Adhikari brothers in terms of recognizing the good work that is happening. It's high time. Whereas on the one hand, we should criticize what is going wrong, but it's absolutely imperative that good work is not only rewarded, but we speak in as louder language, as louder voice about the good work that is also happening, thereby encouraging those that are on the verge of doing good work to do good work. Because in any organization, there are 20% people who are incorrigibly good, there are 20% people who are incorrigibly bad. The organization gets run by 60% in between. And they are the fence sitters. So if they look at towards the incorrigibly good ones, then they will go towards the incorrigibly good ones. But the tragedy is that we are so used to eating masala that whether it is watching television or wherever, it is only when you read criticism, if it is not against you, you enjoy it. You enjoy it thoroughly, because if tomorrow in the newspapers it is published, so-and-so got this award, you'll avoid it. But if there's a scandal, scam, we have become so scam friendly, you know. We like scams. Because if there's no scam, khana nahi bachega yaar, masala nahi hai. So I'm so glad that Adhikari brothers have taken this initiative. They recognize this. Please keep it up. And do it, I'm sure you've done it very objectively. And keep doing, nothing like a pat on the back. And that needs to be done repeatedly, because there are a lot of demoralized people who feel, despite good work, recognition is not coming their way. So please keep going.
So in that context, I would like to also add a little more, sir. My request is if you can also set up a PSU Success TV channel. So at least people who want to really see the success, and then we can do Twitter and YouTube and all. नहीं sir, सब देखेंगे, क्योंकि ultimately there is also limitation to masala, मसाला से acidity भी हो जाती है. तो finally normal खाना भी तो आएगा. So for me, sir, we need to learn to communicate. And today's world, if you can't do a TV channel because it's costly, at least if you can do YouTube success stories, and Twitters, and if you can use it more effectively. I mean, I see you using social media very well, but I think somewhere we need to take some communications training with the people and try to kind of coordinate all that.
I think one thing which can definitely be done, if not a TV channel, is when we teach MBA, when we study in MBA, we talk about so many business case studies around private enterprises. So why can't we compile the successful case studies from PSU environment and take that to MBA curriculum, where we talk about PSUs which have been successful, PSUs which have turned around, PSUs which have done exemplary work, or they have done leadership in their own field. So probably something can be done on that side, and that probably will cater to some of the requirements you said in terms of communication, creating awareness on the good that PSU is doing for the country. So that's one thing. Before I invite final closing comments from everyone, just one stream of thought which I was thinking I must ask everyone. So today when we talk about CSR, we expect a lot from PSU. I'm not too sure how much we expect from a private sector enterprise on that or not, but from PSU we expect a lot. Now, if we are talking about CSR from PSU, is there some kind of possibility, does the idea appeal wherein rather than every PSU doing CSR in its own way, just like a USOF, we create a corpus of funds using which certain changes or certain, monumental initiatives are undertaken in the country. So I would invite comments from each of you on that.
I don't know how USOF is successful, but I do believe that CSR by the company in their own area, targeted area, is still a good idea. Because where are your affected persons, if you do something good for them, you get a goodwill of the local people. Many companies have suffered because they did not care locally, and they started doing CSR globally. It's a dangerous situation. I don't think there could be a good mix of both. But please do take care of local people who are affected by your, and who are otherwise affected by your existence. So CSR should be local to the extent possible. In any case, 2.5% or 2% that we are prescribing is still much lower. So when the whole fund is much bigger, than USOF type of situation can be done. But my original take is on this issue that managers to manage and not managers to lead. Here leaders are trying to manage and not trying to lead. This thin difference between PSU and government has to be understood. We allow managers to manage and allow leaders to lead. Otherwise, the role reversal becomes very dangerous and doesn't outgood. And when my ministry, in fact, we hands-off approach is the best approach that we always feel that. I also believe that that is the good way to make CPSUs run on their own and allow them relative freedom. Even in CSR also. Why should CSR be approved by the ministry are part of MOU. Let the company decide if they are able to decide 21,000 crores of, or maybe 200,000 crores of purchases. Can't they decide 2.5% of their expenditure? So allow them to earn their goodwill. Use social media. Use many more media which are low cost. I mean, perhaps a channel could be a good idea, but even there are existing channels which can be fed with good stories. And business case studies, very less case studies from good successful business are there in our business school. Wherever you go, you find the same usual suspect, usual business stories of world, where situation is very much different from here. So it's a good case, I think. So
I think I agree with you totally that it has to be disaggregated. It can't be centralized because the local populace has to be impacted by CSR work. And I don't think CSR should be treated as an obligation. It should be treated as something which will further add value to what you're doing. Because if you have your people around you, working for you, with you, then the chances of your improving your profitability is much, much more. So we've observed that very closely, that CSR at the local level has a tremendous impact. And again, I keep going to someone who's sitting here who just made a comment. Look at the change that he's bring about by simple CSR. In fact, in this era of opposition to land acquisition, there were villagers who were coming to me asking me, "Ki sahab, hamara land kab acquire hoga?" I mean, unthinkable sitting here in Delhi. So the visibility may not be here in Imperial Hotel for the CSR being done in remote areas by Coal India. And so be it. How does visibility matter here? So long as the people there are satisfied, so long as the people who are coming to me asking me, "When are you acquiring my land?" I think that's the benchmark.
Just to, I agree with the perspective fully. Just to give you a perspective, BSE recently, actually last week, started a new exchange called Samman, which is a CSR exchange. As per section 135 of Companies Act, 2% of the profit of a company beyond a size, which most of the PSUs would be, have to be spent on CSR. And what we have tried to do is to give you a platform to list the projects you have, list the spend you are making, so that it is available to all the journalists, all the governance now and everyone to actually go and figure out what good work you are doing. So it will be, as soon as you become part of that, whether you are listed or not on BSE, and it's a joint initiative of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, which is a division of Ministry of Corporate Affairs, CII, Confederation of Indian Industry, and BSE, just to ensure that whatever good work PSUs and non-PSUs are doing in CSR, that is actually seen by the country in a standardized format. So I would request all of you to come and join the Samman. Already 2,000 crores worth projects have been listed in the first week itself by people who have participated. And I'm sure there is much more to PSUs than sort of 2,000 crores. So I'm sure all of you will come and and probably will have also, I'll request governance now to create one more award on that side to ensure that we give pat on back for people who are doing a good job on CSR.
Sure. We have 5 minutes to go. Probably we can invite some questions, some comments. I request the question seeker to please identify himself or herself and then also name the panelist to which the question or comment is directed to.
More than a question, this is just a comment. This is Kailash Adhikariya, Managing Director, Governance Now. Just to reiterate Mr. Swaroop's point regarding a pat on the back, Governance Now, apart from the PSU awards and conferences that every year it holds, this year we have thought our editorial head, Mr. Ashish Mehta, and ably headed by Mr. Subhendu Pat, to come out with a coffee table book on the best practices of PSU companies. And we are in the process of compiling the best practices of major PSUs and to release, because everything cannot be a part of the main Governance Now booklet magazine. So to separately issue a coffee table book, and that will be out soon, just to make that comment here.
That's a wonderful idea.
But all of you, some of you must have read this. Who says elephant can't dance? I don't know. The IBM revival stories. In fact, in government, sir, you will find that our failures are very well documented. Why a company has failed, you will find 10 reports. But what are the key success factors? What led a turnaround is rarely documented, even by those who manage the things. But the time has come to document those successes also, so that we can learn from each PSU. There is enough wisdom within the PSUs also. Similar thing is this regarding CSR, as you were saying. CSR is not buying peace with your locale. It's rather, I believe that it is sharing prosperity with the people who are affected or otherwise in and around you. So it gives lot of value for money. In fact, had I, if I am a chairman of a corporation, I will spend all my money around my clientele, irrespective of what the CPSE board and other things say. Because my people are our asset, and if people around me are happy, they will come to you also to acquire my land. But if they are unhappy, I mean, you also make steel, but you don't make the people who lose their land, make them smile. I think you're not doing a good job, even if your profits are going up and you are otherwise very viable. But those who have lost their land and property for you, if they are not taken into confidence of CSR, or even CSR plus, I don't think you are justifying your existence, be it government or private. Thank you.
You had a point, sir?
No, I didn't have a point, just a small advice to the performers sitting here. You've performed and will continue to perform, God willing. You know, sometimes we get lost and we spend a lot of time on issues over which we have no control. We do, all of us do it. We really spend sleepless nights over it. And I'd like to share a personal experience in this regard. Probably it may be a bit of inspiration for you. Before I joined the Indian Administrative Service, I was in the police service. There was a batchmate of mine who came to me one day and said, "Boss, रात को नींद नहीं आ रही." I asked him, "क्या हो गया?" बोले, "बॉस, पेट्रोलियम के दाम बहुत बढ़ रहे हैं." तो मैंने कहा, "तुम कुछ कर सकते हो पेट्रोलियम?" जैसा, यार कर तो नहीं सकते। तो मैंने कहा, "रात की नींद क्यों आराम कर रहे हो इसमें?" तो he said, "हाँ, बात तो सही कह रहे हो." चला गया। 3 महीने बाद फिर आया, कहता है, "बॉस, रात को नींद नहीं आ रही।" मैंने कहा, "अब तो पेट्रोलियम के दाम तो ठीक हो गए?" बोले, "नहीं यार, इंडिया की पॉपुलेशन बहुत बढ़ रही है।" तो मैंने कहा, "रात को सो जाओ, अपने आप ठीक हो जाएगी." See, the point that I am trying to make here is, sometimes we spend a lot of time on issues over which we have no control. We think that we have control. Now, why did Sachin Tendulkar get out on a ball on which he should not have got out can be an issue of discussion. But I can't spend a sleepless night over a bad shot played by Sachin Tendulkar. And reflect on what you've been doing in the past, how much time we wasted, how much angry we are on issues over which we have no control. If you can keep that focus, I'm sure many of you are very focused on the job at hand, I tell you, you'll have much better life to live, and you'll get many more awards that you're getting today. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from the audience? So since there are no further questions or comments, let me thank each of the panelists. Thank you so much for your views and deep insight. It's really a wonderful evening for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. It was so interestingly stated by one of our panelists that for PSUs, profit is not the end of the world, but efficiency is. And this discussion was surely hysterically engaging because we had such an august dignitaries with us. So, as a token of appreciation, on behalf of Governance Now and the delegates, may I request Shri Ashish Mehta, Managing Editor of Governance Now, to please come on stage and present the mementos to the distinguished guests. Thank you so much, speakers. There is an important announcement that I have to make. Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has called a meeting of the Council of Ministers, which is now underway at 7 Racecourse Road, and hence our chief guest and guests of honor will be able to join only around 8 p.m. And I'm sure we all want them to be here for the award ceremony, hence we have made a slight change in the schedule. We will break for a 30-minute tea and resume the award ceremony at 8 p.m. Hope this will be okay with you all. I request you all to join us for tea. And of course, this also gives all of us the time to take forward offline the invigorating discussion that we just concluded with the special guests and the extremely distinguished guests that we have here today. Thank you.